considered, that was a distinction that didn't matter much. Surrounded by their guard escort, he and his companions shuffled down the dungeon corridors and up the stairs leading out of it, where the sergeant, who'd given his name as Cliff, paused with his hand on the door, glancing back at them. "Ready?" he asked. "If I say no, we going to call the whole thing off?" Dannen asked. The man grinned. "Afraid not." Dannen grunted, glancing at Feder, who was frowning at the sergeant as if considering what it would feel like to punch the man in the face, which no doubt he was. Feder the Firemaker was many things, but complicated wasn't one of them. When it came to the mage, what you saw was what you got, and more often than not, what you got was an anvil-sized fist in the face. Dannen tried his other two companions, but they were both standing with their heads down, looking largely inconsolable. New to the whole impending death thing, then, an ailment they would have been cured of, given a little more time in Dannen's company. Not that they were likely to get it. The problem with a man gambling with his life, intentionally or not, was that sooner or later he inevitably lost. Dannen sighed, turning back to the sergeant. "Guess we're ready, then." "Think so?" the sergeant asked, grinning. A man, Dannen decided, who enjoyed his job too damned much. One who could do with one of those fists in the face for which Feder had become famous. Infamous, maybe. Not that he was likely to have it. From what Dannen understood of being dead, it really took the strength out of a man's arm. Before Dannen could say anything else, likely something smart, it wasn't as if they could kill them twice. The man swung open the door, and Dannen winced, as bright sunlight filtered through the opening, temporarily blinding him. He blinked, rubbing at his eyes, but as soon as he was able to see, he regretted it. When his vision cleared, it revealed the castle courtyard, and beyond that, the street. A street that happened to be packed to bursting with men and women and children. Their parents, Dannen could only assume, deciding that the only certainty in the world was death, and their children may as well come to know it sooner rather than later. All shouting and screaming, as if the mayor had been some legendary king instead of an asshole mayor who'd killed his own father. Their escort led them toward the castle gates, where more guards flanked them on either side. They halted at the gate, and as the guards set about the task of unlocking it, the roars and shouts of the crowd fell on Dannen like a wave, like some great weight threatening to sweep him from his feet. "They hate us," Tesla said from beside him. "How can they hate us when they do not even know us?" Dannen grunted. "You're young, Tesla, so maybe you haven't figured this out yet, but hating's easy. Why, it's just about the easiest thing in the world," he shrugged. "Fun, too, as it happens. Nothing makes a man feel alive as much as hating someone else. Except, perhaps, for watching that someone else die, and die badly. But then he didn't think the lad needed to hear that just now. His face was pale, his hands trembling in their manacles, and it seemed it was just about all he could do to keep from breaking down. "Steady, lad," Dannen said. "Yeah," Feder agreed, staring around at the people in the street as if he'd like nothing more than to take the whole city on. Not that Dannen wouldn't have given the man good odds, assuming his hands and ankles weren't manacled in iron chains, which, of course, they were. "Besides," the mage went on, "death ain't so bad. Ain't that right, Butcher?" Dannen sighed. "Can't say I've ever tried it." As they stepped out of the gate and into the street, the crowd surged forward, likely wanting to rip at their clothes and flesh, possibly fetch themselves a souvenir so they could look back on the execution, tell their grandkids about it maybe. The guards escorting Dannen and his companions were forced to fight against the crowd, having to go so far as to draw their blades in an effort to keep the masses back. It wasn't until one particularly eager souvenir-seeker was knocked unconscious by a guard's gauntleted fist to lay bleeding.